Come, let us chant the sayings of the Buddha and then meditate like a Jedi. Wakefulness is the way to life. The fool sleeps as if they were already dead. But the master is awake and they live forever. Together, let's chant. Okay, here we go. He watches, he is clear how happy he is, for he sees that wakefulness is life. How happy he is following the path of the awakened. With great perseverance he meditates, seeking freedom and happiness, so awake, reflect, and watch. Work with care and attention, live in the way, and the light could grow in you. By watching and working, the master makes of himself an island which the flood cannot overwhelm. The fool is careless, but the master guards his awareness. It is his most precious treasure. He never gives into the tyranny of desire. He meditates, and in the strength of his resolve he discovers true happiness. He transcends the tyranny of desire, and from the tower of wisdom he looks down with dispassion upon the sorrowing crowd. Oh, that's an editing opportunity right there, kids. From the mountaintop he looks down on those who live close to the ground, mindful among the mindless, awake while others dream. Swift as the racehorse he outstrips the field. By watching, Indra became the king of the gods. How wonderful it is to watch, how foolish it is to sleep. The yogi who guards his mind and transcends the waywardness of his thoughts, burns through every bond with the fire of his vigilance. The yogi who guards his mind and transcends his own confusion cannot fail. Oopsie. Let's try that again. The yogi who guards his mind and transcends his own confusion cannot fall. He has found the way to peace. Having completed our opening lesson, or opening chant, let us now shift gears. It is Yoda Monday evening. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi. After approximately 30 seconds, this is the Dzogchen Sende Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I have harnessed my autistic special interests as well as my ADHD hyperfocus to spend about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that I can become your personal, nerdy, neurodivergent guide to nirvana. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. For the remainder of this evening's live stream, let's simply sit and meditate. It's very simple. No, and actually I'm going to use some visual aids real quick, so I guess I'll tap button 9. No, it's not our job to overuse the front of our head, to actively focus or actively analyze. Doing so will exhaust our brain, induce us to present with symptoms of depression, and trigger our amygdala, the seat of anxiety and aggression. Excuse me, I'm a little bit disgusting tonight. Fortunately, neither the amygdala nor the prefrontal cortex constitute the entirety of our central nervous system. Consider, if you will, the humble spinal cord, whose fancy name is our autonomic nervous system. Every time we inhale, we have evolved to automatically access the middle bit, whose fancy name could be described as the nexus of our sympathetic nervous system, that which has evolved to notice in a very special way, which has evolved to notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly mind's antics, such as seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling, and the like, including the full spectrum of human emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. Everything from the external to the internal, the physical to the mental, the pleasurable to the painful, the interesting to the boring, the glorious to the grotesque. But what are we to do with these things? Well, every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we've evolved to automatically access the end, the top bit, and the bottom bit of that same spinal cord. This is known as the parasympathetic nervous system, or its nexus. And it has evolved to help us to physically relax and mentally release to such a degree that which we noticed during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel less stressful, less permanent, and even less defining. All human cultures embrace figures of speech. So we're going to start with a bit of review. Every time we relax into our exhalation, whatever we notice during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void, like the illusion, the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although could look tantalizing to the eye, feels non-graspable to the hand. So that's it. Emptiness, voidness, they're nothing more than, what's the word I'm looking for? Metaphors of non-graspability. The same non-graspability we evolve to experience fleetingly during each exhalation. Therefore, all mindfulness is noticing mind's antics. And the most efficient way for us to participate vulnerably and passively in the process is to silently and mentally recite the verb watch every time we feel our chest swell with breath. Similarly, meditation is nothing more than relaxing into the ultimate nature of mind, the empty nature of mind. The most efficient way of doing that is to silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb rest each time we feel our chest subtly sink as we exhale, bearing all of this in mind. Now, let us simply watch and rest together as a team in harmony with our breathing. But you're not in this alone. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist philosophy or meditation, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window. For I tend to check for questions, especially on the Tube app, about every 5 minutes or so. So I have to reach for the remote control for the air conditioner, because this little computer of mine is a kind of furnace. Okay. Here we go. I think it could be rather fun to play with 4 quick contemplations. Let us bring the 4 bases of mindfulness into the path of impermanence. We shall begin with Dhamma Anika, and we'll simply describe our circumstance with the monosyllabic word lot. During our inhalation, we recite it silently. During our exhalation, silently and mentally recite the verb change. There is no need to visualize. There is no need to believe. For change is obvious. We see it around us. With the coming and going of the seasons, we see the impermanence of a year. With the waxing and the waning of the moon, we see the impermanence of a month. With the rising and the setting of the sun, we see the impermanence of the day. And with the swelling and the sinking of our chest, we feel the impermanence of a breath. For changing one and all, there is nothing permanent to grasp, including the various minutiae of our circumstance. We turn our attention now to our bodies and replace the word lot with the word form. This is the so let's continue. We now explore the impermanence of the interpersonal. As we breathe in, we can silently and mentally recite the noun feels. As we breathe out, we can silently and mentally recite the verb change. Let us now bring the mind into the path of impermanence. As we breathe in, let us silently and mentally recite the noun mind. As we breathe out, let us silently and mentally recite the verb change. And now let us return to mindfulness and meditation. Now, if you are prone to arthritis, such as myself, or like myself, then I encourage you to gently adjust your posture, gently adjust your legs every 15 minutes or so. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation or philosophy, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window, for I tend to check for questions about once every 5 minutes or so. There's a great big fat ugly lie that if you truly understand impermanence, you would never feel any pain at all. Malarkey. We are wired by evolution to feel the full spectrum of sensations and emotions. Doing so functions as a, let's see here, a tool to aid in our survival. Whether it's fearing, noticing the pain of an infection, or noticing the emotional pain of problem in the tribe or the herd. Since survival depends upon one standing in a tribe or a herd, it is evolutionarily beneficial to feel emotions that would alert us to such things. The Buddha's path is not about picking and choosing what to feel and what not to feel. Remember, the seventh enlightenment factor is equanimity, balance. So remedial equanimity means that we have the same response to everything. What's that? Notice and relax. Watch and rest. We watch and rest pain. We watch and rest pleasure. We watch and rest peril. We watch and rest safety. We watch and rest praise. We watch and rest scorn. We watch and rest fame. We watch and rest shame. So our job is to neither push nor pull, but just to work with whatever life throws at us. Or to use the phrase coined by William Shakespeare, we simply notice and relax. We simply notice whatever slings and arrows of outrageous fortune are foisted upon us and relax. Then how are we to know what to do? Simple. The more we practice mindfulness meditation, the more our choices, utterances, and deeds flow, not from calculated contrivance, not from wild scatteredness, but from centered spontaneity. That is why the greatest effort is the effortless effort that is made available to us simply by practicing the Eightfold Path. However, there is a fly in the ointment. There's always going to be people who are elitist, who are controlling, and will tell you things and decide what to tell you, not based upon whether those things are accurate or inaccurate, but rather based upon whether those things can manipulate you. See, some people are all about power. They just want to manipulate us. And they find personal empowerment through the disempowerment of others. That's malarkey. So regardless of whatever pleasure or pain, interest or boredom you experience, none of those things are an indictment of your wisdom or of your enthusiasm to master the Buddha's path. Look at the Buddha's life. After the Buddha is enlightened, he still experienced the heat in the summer and the cold in winter, or at least the dampness in the rainy season. He experienced people being kind and people being cruel. He experienced betrayal even at the hands of some of his own monks. So, not to mention multiple assassination attempts. And then one time when the attempt was successful, he experienced an agonizing death through poisoning. So a Buddha is not someone who is free of the vicissitudes of life. They're just able to cope with it. Being enlightened simply means that we've gotten so good at the Buddha's path that we practice it spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively, regardless of what we feel. Remember, the seventh fold of the Eightfold Path is mindfulness. The first enlightenment factor is mindfulness. So it's our job to notice what's going on, even when it's yucky, even when it's uncomfortable. We notice and relax, not to change what we feel, but to cope with what we feel. In Tibet, there's a saying, you've probably heard it before, the wisdom of no escape. Sometimes we can escape. Sometimes when it's cold, we can put a jacket on, but that won't always stop the cold. Sometimes when it's hot, we can put the AC on, but that isn't always the case. Sometimes when we're in pain, we can take medicine. Sometimes when we're bored, we can find an interesting book or a task or a movie. But that's not always the case. And as we go through life, we see often there is no remedy or there is no escape. What do we do then? Do we pray to a real or imagined entity for protection or blessings? Or do we cope with the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune? How? How? Do we do it through believing? No. Do we do it through philosophizing? No. The dynamo that drives the Buddha's path of enlightenment is simply our cooperation, our vulnerable, passive, visceral, random, and fleeting cooperation with our own autonomic nervous system, our own Buddha nature, our own part of our central nervous system that has already evolved to notice and release in harmony with our inhalation and our exhalation. As we go through life, we are faced with the same choice over and over again. Do we indulge our controlling tendencies and actively compete against our own autonomic nervous system, or do we cooperate with it passively? Now, it's kind of tricky, having been conditioned to be controlling. Figuring out how to passively cooperate seems daunting. Fortunately, it can be done as easily as silently and mentally reciting the verb watch as we breathe in, as well as silently and mentally reciting the verb rest as we breathe out. The older we get, the more pain we endure. There's only so many painkillers we can take before they do more harm than good. And so whether we want to or not, we've got to learn to cope with the betrayal of our own body. Not everything that claims to have been authored by the Buddha was. And how are we to know? Simple. Apply a teaching. If it works for you, great. Add it to your arsenal. If it doesn't, let's find someone to help you. If they can't help you, then set that teaching aside. Doesn't matter whether it was written by the Buddha or not. All that matters is whether it works for you or not. There's always going to be someone to make something up and pretend it's from the Buddha. That doesn't mean it's so. That's not unique to Buddhism. We see that in wherever humans gather an organization, whether it's spiritual or secular, vocational or recreational, there's always people grabbing for authority that they really don't have. They're called pretenders to the throne. And over the time, with enough foolish people, even the greatest fiend can find popularity and canonization. So let us not beat ourselves up. There are many teachings. If one does not help you, then find another. There are many ways that we indulge our controlling tendencies. A subtle form is when we try to label things as good or bad or whatever. The only label, we don't need any labels. Simply busy ourselves with watching and resting. Let everything else take care of itself. There is Proto-Buddhism, which offers us sudden enlightenment, and there is institutional Buddhism, which promises a gradual enlightenment that is never delivered. Institutional Buddhism has hundreds and hundreds of vows. However, in Proto-Buddhism, we recognize that the essence of morality is nothing other than kindness. Kindness, the highest love, is the spontaneous and uncontrived byproduct of mindfulness and meditation. Therefore, our kindness really is a barometer of our practice. And as such, let us now conclude with a loving-kindness contemplation. Let us bring the four bases of mindfulness into the path of loving-kindness. Let us, through the energy follows intention, and intention follows words. So let us silently and mentally recite these words with the intention of exercising our wishing love. Let us wish that all minds of all beings experience great joy. During our inhalation, let us silently and mentally recite the word joy. During our exhalation, let us silently and mentally recite the word all. Let us bring the interpersonal into the path of love, wishing that all beings experience peace, interpersonal peace. Let us lovingly wish that all bodies of all beings experience great health. Let us lovingly wish that all circumstances of all beings be profoundly profoundly safe in the most wonderful way. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 11 hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's morning meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.